Alright guys, welcome to my first Zenless Zone Zero video today. So in the signal search here, Chingy has 4 days remaining. That means we have 4 days until Jane Doe arrives. Yippee! Yay! Our mouse girl will finally show up and we will be able to get our hands on her by summoning on her limited time banner. Now, we're going to try and answer the question of should you summon on her? In my personal opinion, for most players, I would suggest you summon on her. I simply say this because her teams, being things such as Jane Grace Rena, Jane Chingy Grace, Jane Piper Lucy, these are all double anomaly teams that could become the new overtaking damage meta that will outdo things such as Jujuen Ambi Nicole, Jujuen Chingy Nicole, or Ellen Lycon Sokaku, simply because of the double anomaly creating so much disorder on all of the bosses and enemies we face. Now, disorder isn't something we commonly see because most people don't run double anomaly teams. The reason being that all of the anomaly characters, the only two being Grace and Piper, don't pair well because Grace needs another electric or Bellabog person on her team to activate her passive, and Lucy needs another physical or Sons of Caledon person to activate hers. They can't really go on the same team. However, Jane solves this issue and creates double anomaly teams for the game. She does this by her passive being activated by simply another anomaly character, Grace or Piper, or a Neps person, such as Jujuen Chingy, and on Jane Doe's banner, Seth. This opens up the doors to a completely new team format that isn't the simple attack, stun, support that we have now. And depending on how these teams play out, we might have anomaly build up so quick that disorders are popping out almost every couple seconds and just blasting the enemy without need of stunning them. Since disorder, as we know it, kind of does burst damage just instantly to the enemy and, just shreds the shit out of them. It's something that currently, as I said, we don't really see that much. Since if you're going to throw on Piper or Grace onto a team, they're the only ones primarily building up their anomaly, and you throw them onto same typing type teams, such as Nekomata, Piper, Lucy, Billy, Piper, Lucy, Horn, Piper, Lucy, Grace, Anton, Rena. They're all same typings, so disorder can't really happen. With Jane being physical, and then pairing up with most likely her best pair up would be Grace, it creates a new meta team. That alone is why I suggest people to summon on Jane Doe, especially if you don't have the current meta teams.
I only handle technical matters,
Which are Jujuen Chingy Nicole and Ellen Lycon Sokaku. If you don't have at least one of these teams, Jane Doe is pretty much a must pull, as I would assume if you don't have these characters, you most likely have Grace, Rena, Piper, who's an A rank. These are characters that even if you're free to play, if you've been playing for a decent amount, you might have at least 1, 2, or 3 of these characters. I also say that even if you don't have these teams currently, the big teams right now, or even Grace or Piper, pulling Jane Doe could just be a beneficial investment, as Bernice will be coming out in 1.2, and she being a fire anomaly character could create another good team with Jane, Bernice, and Lucy. I also want to preface that anyone summoning for Jane Doe should do so at their own discretion. If you feel like you want to summon on Jane because you think she's hot, or you like her as a character, or you think she plays really cool, then go right ahead. No one's really going to stop you. And I personally do the same on other games. However, I would also like to say that if you do happen to have one of these bigger teams completely filled out, such as Jujuen, Qingyi, Nicole, which I wouldn't think most players have, but if you do have, let's say, Ellen, Lycon, Sokaku as well, pulling Jane Doe isn't necessarily a must, as most enemy typings in the game that you fight against are weak to ether, ice, electric, and not usually fire or physical. Some of the recent Shiyu defenses, as well as Nineveh not really caring about what type you are, having the need for a physical team isn't really there. I would also say that pulling on Jane Doe simply to build out a physical team wouldn't work that much either, as the other physical characters currently aren't very good besides possibly Piper. You wouldn't want to pair Jane Doe with something like Nekomata, or Korn or Billy, as they're all attack types, and even though they need another physical character to activate their passive besides the factions, Jane wouldn't really fit well because they'd be competing for on-field time. Because your attack type would want on-field time to get their damage out and to build things up, such as Nekomata or Korn, but Jane Doe wants on-field time to build up her assault. It's also important to acknowledge that in this game and in the higher-end content besides Nineveh or Hollow Zero, especially Shiyu Defense, you usually need 2 teams to fill out the roster. You need up to 6 characters and 2 solid teams to run the later Shiyu defenses that require it. And if you only have one team, such as Ellen, Lycon, Sokaku, and you didn't get Jujuen or Qingyi, but you have Grace in your pocket, pulling on Jane Doe would definitely help then in creating a team capable of clearing either physical, electric, or fire type enemies, as you can put Jane with Grace or Piper Lucy. Summoning on Jane Doe, though, really comes into question of what teams do you have and what teams can you make. Pretty much, if you were to pull Jane Doe, how useful would she be in helping you clear later Shiyu defenses or getting a new high score on Nineveh? I think to answer that question, you really have to ask yourself, do you have Jujuen or Ellen? If you have both, pulling Jane Doe is definitely not a must and comes down to how you feel and what characters you want. If you're missing one of these 2, but have Qingyi, I would suggest pulling on Jane Doe, because you could pair her up with Qingyi, and you could create a pretty decent team with Jane Doe, Grace, and Qingyi, so you don't have a support, but you have a stun type. Qingyi gets her passive bonus from Jane Doe being Neps, so the team synergizes well. As well, I think it's important that if you have one of these 2, Ellen or Jujuen, and you have Grace, pulling Jane Doe fills out that second team slot, as I was saying, for the Shiyu defenses. Like I said previously, though, at the end of the day, if you like Jane Doe, pull for her. No one's here to stop your fun. Just pull for who you like. I know she has a fun moveset with her multiple dodges and the passion state and everything. So definitely pull on her if you like her. But from a meta and team perspective, if you're missing a lot of characters, she can help build out a team for you. If you have just a few characters, like you're a newer player or completely free to play, if you have even something like Piper or Lucy, who are A ranks and commonly grabbed by people, then you can easily build a team with Jane Doe. And especially if you're free to play or a light spender, you most likely only have one of these better teams. Like you probably pulled Ellen or Jujuen, not both, and you need a second team to slot out besides something like Corin, Anton, or Soldier 11, and you need a better team. Jane Doe would help with that. I also want to emphasize, like I said before, the meta shift that might happen with double anomaly teams becoming a main thing if future anomaly characters also need only another anomaly type to activate their passive. This might become a trend too of different teams shifting due to these passive restrictions, since the base characters only had to be paired with either the same typing, such as ice, electric, physical, etc., or their faction. But with characters like Qingyi and Jane Doe releasing, where they need just another type character, such as like attack, support, stun, anomaly, Hoyo is telling us primarily how they want us to build teams for them. If they didn't want you to pair a double anomaly type, if they didn't want this to be a good solid team to run, they would not have had her passive restricted to pairing her with another anomaly or Neps. But with all of these things in mind, like I said, have fun, enjoy yourself, and I wish everyone luck on their summons. I hope this helped you out in deciding how you should spend your Polychrome. With Jane Doe only coming out in a few days, it's important for people to know and make an informed decision on if they should spend their Polychrome on her, and if doing so will actually benefit them in the long run. But that's all for this video. I thank you guys for watching. See you in the next one. Bye.